Hey everyone, it's John here. Just wanted to make a quick video on how to make a dashboard. So let's get started. We're going to jump over to our layers panel and we're going to create a new page, which I just did, called dashboard. So here we are selected. We're going to jump then over to the assets tab next to layers. And we're going to expand two areas. The first is spacing. And we'll see there's a component in here called breakpoint grids. And when we drag it in by default, it goes right to the extra large grid, which is dashboard. There's some others, editorial, landing page, all the way down to mobile devices, but we're gonna stick for now with the XXL, and we're gonna build it in regular mode, and then we're gonna convert it over to dark mode. So for now, that's exactly what we need. And I'm going to go ahead and frame the selection, and I'm going to name this dashboard, and I'm going to rename it once we get dark mode. So that's good enough for right now for us to begin. Now we can close the spacing area, and we're going to focus mainly on widgets next. So we're going to build out the high-level navigation. We're going to put a header up at the top, and we're going to put a sidebar on the side here. So let's go ahead and find, there's a component, widget called header dashboard layout. We're going to drag that in, and there it is. And we're going to just drag that in here and snap it to our grid. That looks good. You can snap it there. Now, the interesting thing about this grid is it's actually a grid inside a grid. So Material Design System states that the grid should be outside of navigation, and that makes a lot of sense as you start playing around more with collapsing and expanding side panels, which we're going to have. We're going to have a side panel nav. I'm going to go ahead and drag in this sidebar widget next, and you'll see what that looks like here. They're already appropriately sized, roughly for this dashboard that we're going to be building. The only thing I'm going to do is just drag it a little bit taller here. Okay, and then it should snap perfectly. Okay, great. The next thing we want to do is actually look at whether we want this to be expanded or compressed. So for this one, let's go ahead and start with it compressed, and then we can adjust that later. So we're going to need to go into layers in this case, and our breakpoints grid, we're going to go ahead and detach that. That's fine. This is just a starting point for us. And then we're going to grab this inner frame, and we're going to expand that area right up to our sidebar, right? Which makes sense. This is the area we're going to be dragging widgets into, and we need a gutter between the sidebar and our widgets. And so we can just zoom in, make sure that's snapped in appropriately. The other interesting conundrum is, do we put the header all the way across horizontally, or do we let the sidebar take that prominent branding position? And in most cases, not every design is the same. You might have a specific use case, but pulling it up to the top in most cases is going to be the way to go. And we have built in this top area to be exactly identical in height to the dashboard header. So that'll just help everything line up spatially and make sense. Now within this header, there's quite a few hidden options or variants here. We have an option to add an avatar, and then once we have the avatar, we can of course go in and we could change it to a different individual. This is using an original illustrated avatar system that we built from scratch. So first time that's being shown. And then we can also add a right icon, say like for navigation, could be a common one, or a left icon, which could be, go back in the navigation, etc. So we're going to leave that there. And then we're going to go ahead and title this Sales Overview. Okay, and that's going to be our title. And then we have a search input here. We could change this icon to one of the other Pegasus icons if we wished. But for now, I think that serves our purposes just fine. This sidebar has states for it to be, selected or not selected within each of these individual items. And so that definitely should help as well, and we could always switch out this logo to our own if we wished. All right, let's jump into adding some widgets next. So we'll see a couple things inside this inner frame here. One is that we have already auto layout with padding inside it and spacing elements between each item. So what we're going to do is we're going to build rows, and we're going to put the components in those rows. But as we saw, we expanded out this inner auto layout within the frame, so we need to bring that all the way to the edge of our new layout screen. And just to make this easier to see, I'm going to go ahead and set this to more of a dark mode layout, just so it's easier to see the edges of the screen. All right, let's start dragging in our widgets if we want to. So we're going to drag in the main dashboard widget here. Nope, sorry, that's a builder. This one here is the one we want. Perfect. And then we're also going to have some of these horizontal widgets as well. And so let's go ahead and create a couple of rows. So we're going to start here, and then I'm going to say Shift A. So that's wrapped that widget now in an auto layout style container. And then we're going to say we want it to go horizontal because we want these to go in a row straight across. I'm going to make sure I'm at the widget level, and I'm going to duplicate that 3 times. Cool. And then inside of this row, I'm going to go ahead and set the gutters to be 32 pixels and the padding to be 0, because we already have that inner padding, which is helping us just fine. And then I'm going to set the fixed width to fill container. So that inner row is going to take up every bit of this auto layout, which is containing, you know, the full width and full height minus the interior padding that's inside this auto layout component. So that makes sense, right? Now we have a problem we can see. I'm going to turn off the grid just for a moment, and that is that these are too wide, right? So we need to set these from fixed width to fill container, and we'll see that they're going to start taking exactly 1/3 of the width minus the gutters, which are 32. So everything is 32, right? It's kind of lining up really nicely, hopefully. Now, what's another problem? We can't see these widgets because these are white and the background's white, which is sort of a problem. These we want to stand out and be white, so that's okay, right? But we're going to go ahead and take this interior area here, and we're going to give it a fill, and we're going to set that to something like background weak, or maybe we might even set it to input, which now we can see our screen is a lot more easy to see the widgets. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's go ahead and repeat that process. So I'm going to go ahead and select this row that we built, and I'm going to duplicate it. It's going to go down because this outer padded element, the one inside it is facing down in auto layout. So it's going to stack the rows vertically, which is what we want. But we don't want these widgets to be repeated. So let's go ahead and drag in our new widget. And the best way to do that is I'm going to go ahead and cut it, select the row, paste it in. It's going to paste it all the way to the right. And then we can get rid of some of these other components. Cool. And I'm going to have 4 of these. And get rid of this. Okay. So that's what we want. Now, as we can see, they're not taking the width that we want. So we can select all 4 at once. I'm just clicking each one while I'm holding Shift. And then I'm going to go from fixed width under sizing to full width. Boom. So they're flexible. They're able to shift and adjust, and that's exactly what we want. Now, the next thing we might want is like a large example of a chart. So I'm just going to drag in our widget called Dashboard Chart Widget. And here we are. And I'm going to put that in the middle. So I'm selecting in. Let me go to my layers so I can get it. And I'm just going to hit the up arrow and probably just put it right in the center. That's exactly what I want. Now we can choose a couple of different designs for this. There's a line style. There's also a bar style. There's dual or singular. And for this one, I'm just going to use a single line, and we're going to leave it in light mode for now. Now let's go up to these top level widgets and start seeing what options we have. So we have type up, down, or non-directional. So we can choose whether we want to use the red and green. In our case, this is a sales dashboard, so we're going to go ahead and want to use those colors. So this one we'll do down, and this other one we'll leave up. And for the middle one, let's see what kind of style options we have. We have linear, we have radial, okay. We have a line, and then a large stat. So let's do a large stat, and let's make that non-directional. Okay, so we don't have any icons here, and that's totally fine. And what we'll say is, let's see, we'll make a really big number. And we'll make that in USD. We'll say total sales. And then we'll go over here and we'll switch this one to, let's see. I'm going to stay away from the lines. We'll do a radial. And we'll go ahead and put that over here. And then we'll say this is 72%, and we'll say goal, monthly goal, and then we'll say this is 1.2% up, and then we'll say new clients, and that what you can see is, we'll say that's 25,000. We'll just do round numbers, and we'll say that's down 0.5%. Let's do 0 there. So we can see that we're now kind of fleshing out the specific data. Now you might have mock data, you might actually be pulling in real data from a Google spreadsheet. There's plugins to do that through Figma, which are kind of fun and interesting as well. For this one, I'm going to click in. So we've got a builder component inside here, buried deeper. And then for this one, we can set it to up, we can set it to down. There are different random line patterns. So if you don't like the line pattern the way that it looks, you can pick something more non-directional or more opinionated. We can also switch to the value color, so that's going to give us the positive, and that looks pretty good to me. Next, let's see what our smaller horizontal or more like proportional widgets offer. So again, we've got up, we've got down. Let's change a couple of these to down, and a couple of them will stay up. And our styles, we have line filled, a graph, a radial, dual, and then a radial segmented, a bar vertical, and of course a bar horizontal. So I'm just going to change these to sort of some random options and see how they look. All right, I'm going to switch these out really quick. This one I'm going to go up. This one I'm going to have go down. Okay. One other thing you might notice is that it takes some playing around with to find the right look that you're wanting. And so, you know, you can just kind of play around with these options until you find the look that meets your needs or your specific metric goals. So I'm going to leave this as bar vertical, and then I'm going to switch this last one to the segmented. Cool. All right, so that's, we built a quick dashboard. Now we've got this option here, which we need to change the color, of course, to match the greens. We're going to set that to success. And the date range here, this item unfortunately has the wrong background color. So it's not wrong, it's correct. It's just a consequence of the color that we set this background to is the same, which is not good because we want to see that. So we're going to click in here, get to it. All right, and we're going to change this to background weak. All right, so there we are. We've created our dashboard. Now let's see what we can do to switch it to dark mode. So I'm just going to copy that, and I'm holding Shift and Option. Shift is keeping it on a horizontal or a vertical plane, and then Option is duplicating it. So that's all that's doing there. Okay. Now we can go into each of the components and we can just toggle at the very bottom. There's always a dark mode setting on all of our components or widgets. So this is kind of the fun part because it's going to be incredibly fast. We'll go ahead and toggle that on, and just work our way down. Boom. And then we've got to change our background color to something different. So let's find that frame, and then I'm going to set that to probably the darkest setting, which is header. All right, so we just converted to dashboard in about 10 seconds. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you'd like more like this, just comment down below. And we're going to be always releasing new updates and new products, so feel free to head over to our website, pegasusdesignsystem.com, and we have an email sign up in the bottom. You can put in your email to be notified when the latest products and services are released. Hope you have a great week designing, and take care. Thanks so much.